Hi, this is Cheryl Gallant, your Conservative Member of Parliament for the Humble riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation has revealed exactly how much the Trudeau Liberals have been spending to promote eating crickets. In total, 6 different companies have all received funds from taxpayers to research turning crickets into commercially available food. The CBC wants Canadians to think this is all just a conspiracy theory. Clearly, the CBC needs to buy a dictionary. Typically, a conspiracy is done behind closed doors. The Liberals are not hiding these handouts for crickets. Proponents of eating crickets are not hiding their agenda. They're coming right out and stating it clearly. Crickets produce more protein per ton of carbon than traditional livestock. The Liberals see this as part of the solution to reduce carbon emissions. This is the same reason the World Economic Forum promotes eating crickets. The CBC claims even speaking about the government's financial support for cricket food factories is actually part of some secret international right-wing plot to deny the climate changes. The CBC's progressive reporters have to invent some complicated conspiracy to explain why people are angry about this. But the truth is simple. Canada's a free country. If you want to eat crickets, eat crickets. If you think you can make money selling crickets, sell crickets. Just don't ask other Canadians to pay for your crickets. Justin Trudeau's first trip to India was a global embarrassment. From his cringe-inducing costume photo ops to inviting a terrorist to dinner, Trudeau made international headlines. Much of the international media had built up Trudeau as a progressive darling, so his first trip to India was as much as an embarrassment to them as it was for Trudeau. The good news, at least for Canadians, was that most people didn't associate Trudeau's antics with their image of Canada as a country. Unfortunately, his most recent trip was a complete disaster. Trudeau hurt our economy and embarrassed our nation. Even before the trip, there were warning signs. Trudeau suspended free trade talks between India and Canada. Canadians only learned about this from the Indian government. The sad fact is those negotiations had been started by Stephen Harper. The Liberals came to power claiming they supported free trade, but after 8 years, they couldn't reach a deal. Now those talks are off. At the actual G20 meeting in India, Trudeau wasn't invited to join a biofuel alliance, even though Canada is a leading producer of biofuels. The government of India thinks the Liberal NDP alliance is too soft on separatist groups who use Canada to fundraise and organize. Trudeau received a dressing down from both the leaders of the largest democracy and the most powerful democracy. When asked what Canada's contribution to this year's G20 statement was, Trudeau said, gendered language. The final statement spends more time discussing reforms to regional development banks than it does to issues involving women's equality. So, after Trudeau was sidelined and talked down to by other leaders, he left the meeting with the tail between his legs, only to learn his plane was broken and he was stuck in India. Now, the Prime Minister of India offered to let Trudeau use his plane, but Trudeau refused. Trudeau could have used the opportunity to schedule meetings with Indian government officials, but he didn't. Instead, he sat in his hotel and sulked. On his first trip, he embarrassed himself. On his second trip, he embarrassed the country. Of course, it sounds as though Trudeau might want to stay in India a bit longer. According to the unnamed Liberal MPs who spoke to the Toronto Star and CBC, Trudeau is expected to face an angry caucus. Maybe, potentially, probably not though. From reading the comments by Liberal MPs in both stories, two things become clear. First, every Liberal MP is upset with Trudeau, and every MP hopes one of their colleagues will be the one brave enough to stand up and speak truth to power. Second, almost every one of these echo chamber locked Liberals thinks the problem is communications. You see, these arrogant Liberals think you just don't understand. They think the reason Canadians are abandoning the Liberals is because Canadians don't see and hear enough about the great Liberal policies. They think if you don't love them, then it's because you're misinformed. What arrogant Liberal fever blinds them to is the simple truth. Canadians understand Liberal policy perfectly well. It is the Liberal Party's official policy to increase the price of energy. Canadians understand that when Liberals increase the price of energy, they increase the price of everything. Live from Ottawa, this is Cheryl Gallant.